and that's the truth, y'all. Honey? Thank you. She needs that. Gene was born in McRae, Georgia, and moved to Fort Valley when he was about 8 years old, so he considers Fort Valley his home. He graduated from Abraham Baldwin, ABAC down there, got a degree from the Medical School of Georgia, and then went to seminary school where he got his master's at Asbury. Thank you, Jane, appreciate that. Asbury Technical Seminary. And he's an elder in the North Georgia United Methodist Church conference up there, here. His wife, Kathy, couldn't be with us today. He has two children, or they're adults now, Carrie and Tripp, 21 and 19. But I really would, Gene, he came to our church. Our church has grown, and we're really excited down in Jodico Road, United Methodist Church. So I would like to introduce my pastor, Gene Sheffield. Thank you.
Speaker Ralston, members of the House, please allow me to express my thanks for inviting me to speak here today to you. I'm especially grateful to Representative Glenn Baker for submitting my name as a possible chaplain of the day. It is indeed an humbling challenge for me to address you today, and I will remember it always. However, it has caused me quite a dilemma as to what message I could bring to such an austere group of people such as this. Let me start off by expressing my gratitude for you for the job that you do. I understand what a calling is like, particularly when that calling places you in a position that is often very difficult, when difficult decisions have to be made. You face dilemmas every day in each and every assembly. I realize the strain this calling is placed on your personal lives and your business lives, and we, the citizens of the great state of Georgia, are in your debt. Thank you for what you do. I will try to be brief today, as pastors are always trying to be. I was born and raised here in this state, and it is my firm belief that it has been and remains the greatest state in our nation. I am proud to be a Georgian, and this fact is the basis of my message for you today. I want to tell you a little bit about the prophet Jonah today. The book of Jonah is my favorite in the Old Testament. There are several reasons for this, but perhaps the most important is that it's very short, and I feel I have ADD. I can read the story of Jonah in just a few minutes, and it's a great story with lots of action and lots of plot turns. Now, typically, most messages we hear about Jonah surround his refusal to answer the calling of God. And that's definitely a talking point. But I'm going to resist the temptation to go with that, because I do feel a certain kinship to Jonah in that respect. However, I want us to focus on a different aspect of Jonah's story today. If you have read or heard the story before, perhaps you recall that Jonah, upon hearing the call of God, chose to ignore God and actually do the very opposite of what God had asked him to do. Kind of reminds me of my dog. I can throw a tennis ball, ask her to go fetch it, and she'll look at me and go the other way, as if saying, "You threw it over there, you go get it." God had asked Jonah to go to the city of Nineveh and to tell its citizens that the Lord had seen their evil ways and was going to utterly destroy them. And you sometimes think your decisions are unpopular. Jonah wanted nothing to do with that. He got up, he fled in the opposite direction of Nineveh. Let's unpack that for just a second, if you will. Jonah is a son of Israel, the uniquely chosen people of God. He has been taught as a small child that God has a special relationship with these people, and that God is creator of all and sovereign over all. Yet Jonah refuses to listen to God's call. This causes me to ask why. Why, Jonah? Why did you not want to go to Nineveh? We do not need to speculate on the answer because we're told the answer at the end of the story. Jonah, following a brief, close encounter of the fish kind, reluctantly goes to Nineveh to preach God's warning. As he is going throughout the town preaching, people are listening and people are telling each other about what they are hearing. The news reaches the king of the city, who orders everyone to repent and to show signs of mourning in order to let God know that they are sorry and hoping that he will change his mind. Jonah, meanwhile, goes out of the city up to a hillside overlooking the town and watches to see what will happen. When nothing does happen, no fire, no brimstone to destroy the city, he is royally ticked off. He begins to yell at God, "See, I knew this would happen. I knew the people would listen and repent. I knew you would forgive them. Now I look like a fool. I wish I had never heard your voice. I wish I could just die. I'm so mad." God asked him, "Are you angry because I am merciful?" Let's look at this. Why would it upset Jonah? I believe the answer is obvious and twofold. First, he feels that he looks like a fool in the eyes of the people of Nineveh because his predictions have not come to pass. But more importantly, he wanted to see those people destroyed. They deserved it. They were evil. They were not God's chosen people. God should have just wiped them off the face of the earth, in his opinion. But you see, Jonah had forgotten something. I believe that God wants us to hear this message today. The message that God gave to Jonah was that the people of Nineveh are God's people too. He created them just like he created the people of Israel. And by the way, the people of Israel had their own issues with evil behavior too. What does this have to say for us today here in this room? Here's what I hope you take away from the story. The fact is, we are a divided people, a divided state, a divided nation. It's us against them. Black against white, red against blue, liberal against conservative, my kind, your kind. This is especially true in an election year. There seems to be no common ground, but there is. We are all Georgians in this room. We love this state and what it has to offer. I lived in another state for 4 years a while back. It was a nice place, beautiful landscape, nice, friendly people. They even had 4 full and distinct seasons every year. Nevertheless, I could not wait to get back home to Georgia. I was born here, and God willing, I will die here in Georgia. I hope you feel the same pride that I have in this state. Let us not make the same mistake Jonah made. Let us not forget that we are brothers and sisters. We may have different views, but we are one people. We may believe in different solutions for the same problem, but we are one people. We may share different groups, philosophies, creeds, races, and genders, but we are one people. We are Georgia's people. We are God's people. Don't ever forget that. And when you're debating issues on this floor, remember that your opponent is your fellow Georgian. Try to see the other's point of view and seek compromise where possible. It is the diversity that makes Georgia great, and it is working together to find solutions that work, that make Georgia strong. So reach across the aisles, step over the lines, put the argument down, and celebrate on the common ground. If you will, please pray with me. Lord God, our Father, I come before you today and lift up to you my brothers and sisters in the Georgia House of Representatives. I pray that you will be first and foremost on their minds and hearts as they deliberate issues that affect our state. Lord, allow your peace and grace to abound in this chamber, surrounding all here with your love. May your Spirit be among us and make us one. In all things, may we be pleasing in your sight to you, O Lord, our Redeemer. Amen. Amen. If you will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Chair recognizes the chairman of the Committee on Information and Audits, Chairman Davis.
Mr. Speaker, the journal from the previous legislative day has been read and reviewed and found to be correct.
Chairman Davis of the 109th District, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. O'Neill, 146, move the following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period of unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions, first reading and reference of bills and resolutions, second reading of bills and resolutions, reports of standing committees, third reading and passage, uncontested local bills, rules, calendar, through the resolution.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I may have to ask Representative Hightower to inquire into the absence of Representative Cook. I'm not sure that becoming a daddy last night about 6 o'clock is sufficient reason to not be here today, do y'all? Y'all be sure and congratulate Representative Cook when he does get back. I know he's a proud daddy today. First reading of House bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 788 by Representative Spencer, the 180th. Bill to be entitled Act, Amendment Act, providing for education, Camden County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 789 by Representative Spencer, the 180th. Bill to be entitled Act, Amendment Act, reorganize modern law, Camden County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 790 by Representative McBray, the 153rd. A bill to be entitled Act, Amendment Act, creating the Tift County Board of Education.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 791 by Representative McBray, the 153rd. A bill to be entitled Act, creating Board of Commissioners, Tift County. Hey, Roger.
Intergovernmental coordination.
Roger. House Bill 792 by Representative Casas, 103rd. A bill to be entitled Act, amending Code Section 20-3-250.8 relating to application to operate or conduct post-secondary activities under the Non-Public Post-Secondary Educational Institutions Act of 1990.
Education. I'm sorry, higher education.
House Bill 793 by Representative Sims, 169th. Bill to be entitled Act, amendment Title 32 relating to dimensions, weight, vehicles, and loads to provide exception, dimension, and weight requirements, emergency tows of commercial vehicles.
Transportation.
House Bill 794 by Representative Mayo, the 91st. A bill to be entitled Act, amending Code Section 4852 relating to definitions regarding ad valorem taxation of property.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 795 by Representative Powell, 29th. Bill to be entitled Act, amending Title 40 relating to motor vehicles and traffic.
Motor vehicles.
House Bill 796 by Representative Marin of the 96th. Bill to be entitled Act so as to repeal provisions enacted by House Bill 87, 2011 session.
Judiciary non-civil.
House Bill 797 by Representative Jones, 46th. Bill to be entitled Act, amending Title 20 relating to charter schools.
Education.
House Bill 798 by Representative Smith, 168. A bill to be entitled Act, amending Title 21 relating to ethics in government.
Rules.
House Bill 799 by Representative Kidd of the 141st. A bill to be entitled Act, amending Title 40 relating to serious traffic offenses.
Judiciary non-civil.
House Bill 800 by Representative Netter of the 143rd. A bill to be entitled Act, amending Code Section 38-152 relating to Assistant Adjutant Generals General.
Defense and Veterans Affairs.
House Bill 801 by Representative Gardner, 57th. A bill to be entitled amending Title 33 relating to insurance so as to establish a Georgia Health Insurance Marketplace Authority.
Insurance.
House Bill 802 by Representative McKillop, 115th. A bill to be entitled amending Title 40 relating to ordinance providing for historic preservation.
Judiciary.
House Bill 803 by Representative Ralston, 7th. A bill to be entitled Act, amending Act providing Board of Education, Gilmer County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Resolution 1158, Representative Green, 149. A resolution honoring the life and memory of the Honorable Jimmy Hodge Timmons and designating a highway in his memory.
Transportation.
House Resolution 1159, Representative Smyer, the 132nd. A resolution compensating Ms. Jackson and providing for a state income tax exclusion.
Appropriations.
House Resolution 1160, Representative Hughley, the 123rd. A resolution compensating Mr. Lathan Word.
Appropriations.
House Resolution 1161 by Representative Buckner, the 130th, a resolution compensating Mr. James Cawley.
Appropriations.
House Resolution 1162 by Representative Jones, 46th, a resolution proposed amendment of the Constitution to clarify authority of the state to establish statewide education policy to provide for ratification.
Education.
House Resolution 1163 by Representative Byrd, the 20th, resolution urging the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts to create the Georgia Transparency in Government Spending website.
Governmental affairs.
Through the first readers.
Second reading of House bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
HB 680 by Representative Dickerson, the 95th, a bill relating to offense against public order. HB 681 by Representative Dickerson, 95th, bill relating to standards, labeling, and adulteration of food. HB 749 by Representative Green of the 149th, a bill to amend an act to provide education districts, Calhoun County Board of Education. HB 750 by Representative Green of the 149th, a bill to amend an act to increase the number of commissioners, roads and revenues, County Calhoun County 3-5. HB 751 by Representative Holmes, 125th, a bill to provide future elections office of judge of the probate court, Jasper County, should be nonpartisan elections. HB 752 by Representative Holmes of the 125th, a bill to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners, Jasper County. HB 753 by Representative Holmes of the 125th, a bill to amend an act reconstituting Board of Education, Jasper County. HB 754 by Representative Parrish of the 156th, a bill to amend an act creating Board of Commissioners, Candler County. HB 755 by Representative Parrish of the 156, a bill to amend an act to reconstitute Board of Education of Candler County. HB 756 by Representative Schnell of the 116th, a bill to amend an act to revise, modernize, consolidate the provisions of local law relating to State Court of Putnam County. HB 757 by Representative Schnell of the 116th, a bill to amend an act creating Board of Commissioners, Putnam County. HB 758 by Representative Lane of the 167th, the bill to amend an act creating a Board of Commissioners, Glenn County. HB 759 by Representative Lane of the 167th, a bill to amend an act providing Board of Education, Glenn County. HB 760 by Representative Coleman of the 97th, a bill relating to capital outlay funds for elementary and secondary education. HB 761 by Representative Parsons of the 42nd, a bill relating to exemptions from state sales and use tax. HB 762 by Representative England of the 108th, the bill relating to the number of Superior Court judges for each judicial circuit. HB 763 by Representative Atwood of the 179th, the bill relating to juries. HB 764 by Representative Lane of the 167th, bill relating to amend an act creating Board of Education, McIntosh County. HB 765 Representative Lane of the 167th, the bill to amend an act creating Board of Commissioners, McIntosh County. HB 766 by Representative Benton of the 31st, a bill relating to Division of Archives and History. HB 767 by Representative Parrish of the 156th, bill to amend an act providing reapportionment or redistricting of districts from and by which members of Board of Education, Johnson County, are elected. HB 768 by Representative Parrish of the 156th, a bill to amend an act relating Board of Commissioners, Johnson County. HB 769 by Representative Geisinger of the 48th, a bill relating to Consumer Utility Council Division. HB 770 by Representative Smith, the 129th, a bill to amend an act reconstituting Board of Education, Harris County. HB 771 by Representative Smith, the 129th, a bill to amend an act relating Board of Commissioners, Harris County. HB 772 by Representative Holt of the 112th, a bill to amend an act creating Board of Commissioners, Newton County. HB 773 by Representative Holt of the 112th, a bill to amend an act relating to Board of Education, Newton County. HB 774 by Representative Holt of the 112th, a bill to amend an act creating Board of Commissioners, Morgan County. HB 775 by Representative Holt of the 112th, a bill to amend an act providing election of members, Board of Education, Morgan County. HB 776 by Representative Sims of the 119th, a bill relating to primaries and elections. HB 777 by Representative Hanner of the 148th, a bill to amend an act creating Board of Commissioners, Terrell County. HB 778 by Representative Hanner of the 148th, the bill relating to hiring out of inmates. HB 779 by Representative Harden of the 147th, the bill to amend an act providing Board of Education, Pulaski County. HB 780 by Representative Kendrick of the 94th, the bill relating to general provisions relative to labor and industrial relations. HB 781 by Representative Kendrick of the 94th, bill relating to foreclosure. HB 782 by Representative Kendrick of the 94th, a bill relating to animal protection generally. HB 783 by Representative Hatchett of the 143rd, a bill to amend an act creating Board of Commissioners, Lawrence County. HB 784 by Representative Maxwell of the 17th, a bill to amend an act relating to Board of Education, Harrelson County. HB 785 by Representative Peake of the 137th, a bill relating to insurance. HB 786 by Representative Hembry of the 67th, a bill relating to Consumers Insurance Advocate. HB 787 by Representative Setzer of the 35th, bill relating to government regulation of mental health. HB R 1141 by Representative Holmes of the 125th, a resolution dedicating State Route 22 in the city of Gray and the eastern city limit to its intersection with State Route 11 as a Herman E. Black Memorial Highway. HB 1142 by Representative Spencer of the 180th, a resolution honoring life and service of Sergeant Carlton Dan Jenkins and dedicating interchange in his memory. HR 1150 by Representative Coleman the 97th, the resolution proposing amendments to the Constitution so as to provide that the sales and use tax for educational purposes shall be distributed on the basis of full-time equivalent student counts when proceeds are distributed between county school districts and independent school districts located in such county. HR 1151, Representative Brockway of the 101st, a resolution creating the Joint Human Traffic Study Commission. HR 1152 by Representative Holt of the 112th, a resolution honoring the life and memory of Mr. J. Dixon Hayes, dedicating a road in his memory. Through second readers.
Report of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Roberts, 154th, Chairman of the Committee on Transportation, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Transportation has in consideration the following resolution of the House and instruct me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendation. House Resolution 1103, due pass, respect submitted Representative Roberts, Chairman. Representative Sims, 169th Chairman, Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination. Submit the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination has under consideration the following bills. The House struck me report the same back to the House with the following recommendation. House Bill 690, 694, 7017, 702, 740 do pass. Respectively submitted. Representative Sims, Chairman, through the committee reports.
All right, now we're going to go on to the local calendar here, and let me remind you that we have a joint session beginning in about 30 minutes, and we've got a lot of business to get done in that time. We've got a rules calendar, we've got a recognition, morning orders. So I'd ask you to please stay near your seats. If you have conversations that need to go on, take them out to the ante room or the hallway. Clerk will read the local calendar.
House Bill 690 by Representative Smith, the 70th, Coweta County. House Bill 694 by Representative Smith, the 70th, Coweta County. House Bill 701 by Representative Nix, 69 Troup County. House Bill 702 by Representative Nix, 69 Troup County. House Bill 740 by Representative Cook, the 18th, Carroll County, through the local calendar.
If there's no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bills on the local calendar. The ayes are 136, the nays are 0. These bills, having received a requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. Ask the House to come to order. We have an invite resolution. The chair recognizes the Speaker Pro Tem of this House for an invite resolution. Yeah, I told it.
Clerk will read the resolution.
House Resolution 1145 by Representative Jones, 46, Representative Lindsay, the 54th, Representative Martin, the 47th, Representative Willard, the 49th, Representative Riley, the 50th, and others. A resolution recognizing and commending Southwest Airlines on its expansion into Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, the busiest airport in the world, and the House of Representatives resolves members of this body recognize and commend Southwest Airlines on its expansion to Atlanta and extend their best wishes for continued success in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Dear members, I hope you'll join me in just a moment in welcoming a warm Atlanta and Georgia welcome to Southwest Airlines and Dave Ridley, Senior VP and Chief Marketing Officer for Southwest Airlines. As you know, Southwest Airlines will begin services on February 11th after its acquisition of AirTran, with access to 15 new routes for your Georgia constituents. And we're excited to have them. They're the busiest passenger airline in the United States. We're all very familiar with their low prices and great service, and we're excited to have them join our family in Georgia to serve our constituents. Thank you, and I want to present to you Senior Vice President Dave Ridley.
Well, thank you very much, and on behalf of 35,000 Southwest Airlines employees and 8,000 AirTran employees, as we come together in this great marriage and bring the freedom to fly and to guarantee the folks from Atlanta and all throughout Georgia will have low fares forever and your bags will fly free. So thank you for having us, and we look forward to continuing to service your community. Thank you.
Thank you, and on behalf of Atlanta, the metropolitan area, North Fulton, the North Fulton Chamber of Commerce, we're excited to have you here and excited to have you serve our constituents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
What purpose does Representative Hurd rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
I ask that the rules be waived and that a bill be read for the first time and placed into committee.
So you're putting that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir.
Clerk will read a caption.
Bill by Representative Hurd, the 114th. Bill to be entitled Act providing for non-binding advisory referendum by the electors of Clark County for the purpose of ascertaining whether the General Assembly should enact local legislation county commission election districts.
On the motion of the representative from Athens, Clark County, that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? Chair hears none. It is so ordered. Intergovernmental coordination. All right, we're going on now to morning orders. Morning orders. We have two morning orders this morning. Chair recognizes Representative Braddock for a morning order. House will come to order.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the past few months, I've worked with Americans for Prosperity on a video about school choice in Georgia. And as y'all know, this is School Choice Week in Georgia. I wanted to invite you to a viewing of the movie in the Georgia room of the Sloppy Floyd building today at 2, 3, 4, and 5 p.m. And then following, there will be a Q&A session afterwards. So it's a short 30-minute film to let you know about how school choice would fix our education system in Georgia. I want to share with you also a survey that AFP recently did, and it was a statewide survey. It was nonpartisan, multi-age, multi-ethnic, and multi-income level of medium to high propensity voters, and 16% were households with someone employed by the public school system. And one of the results that they got is 70.5% of the people agreed that parents know what their child needs best and should have options for educating their child, and the money should be directed to the school of the parent's choice. The same percentage would be more likely to vote for a legislator who supported school choice. And a majority of the people in the survey, 61.5%, worked in the school system. I hope you'll take 30 minutes to come and see this movie. It features Governor Nathan Deal, U.S. Senator Johnny Isakson, Senator Chip Rogers, Representative Alicia Thomas Morgan, and myself, as well as Melvin Everson, and it talks about how we can get serious about fixing education in our state with a school choice model. So I hope to see you there this afternoon. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Taylor for a morning order. Representative Rashad Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last night, the President delivered what I think was a great State of the Union address, and there are a few things that struck me close to my heart. One of those was a challenge he made to every state in this union to raise our dropout age. In 2009, I actually introduced legislation to do that here in Georgia, the Dropout Deterrent Act. It raised the compulsory attendance age in Georgia from 16 to 17. I'm reintroducing that legislation this morning. Here's why. Well, there's some people who are going to say that it costs too much for us to raise the attendance age in Georgia, that it costs too much for us to raise the age that a child can sign up and drop out of school officially in Georgia. But I don't think the state of Georgia ought to be saying to young people who are 16 in this state that we're going to give up on them, that they can walk into their high school when they turn 16, sign a piece of paper, and never have to come back again. It's a shame in this state that we make it harder for a 16-year-old to get a driver's license than it is to drop out of school. There's some people who are going to say that it costs too much to raise the compulsory attendance age just for 1 year, from 16 to 17. But I look at how much it costs us to house a prisoner in the state of Georgia, and I submit to you that it does not cost too much not to give up on children at 16. I urge you to sign this bill. I'll leave it at the clerk's rostrum for you to sign it as I introduce it this morning, to say to young people in this state at 16, we will not give up on you. Thank you.
That completes the morning orders for today. We're going to introduce the doctor of the day now, and the chair recognizes Representative Bruce Williamson to introduce the doctor of the day. Representative Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce the doctor of the day, a constituent of mine from the great county of Walton. He hails from the metropolis of Between, and for those of you that don't know, Between is what its name implies. It's between Loganville and Monroe. He comes from a farming family. Goes back many generations. Dr. Thompson works as a part-time faculty member with Emory University, where he teaches and supervises medical students and residents caring for the patients in Grady's emergency room. He is a partner in the Georgia Urgent Care located in Alpharetta, and has recently taken a part-time position with, and for those of us that are a little bit closer to Athens, we will forgive him for working for the Georgia Institute of Technology Student Health Services. Dr. Thompson and his wife Laura have 4 children, Emily, Amy, Ben, and John. Please help me in welcoming our doctor of the day, Dr. Ben Thompson.
That's all right. Well, thank you. Just appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I'd like to thank all of y'all for your service to the citizens of Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us. I overlooked a morning order, and I apologize earlier. We have one more morning order. Representative Tom Taylor. Representative Taylor for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to recognize some folks. It's Code Enforcement Day at the Capitol, and code enforcement officers are sworn officers that work for municipalities, counties, et cetera, that along with law enforcement keep the quality of life in our communities great, and we've got a bunch of them down here today. I'd like to give a great Georgia welcome to the Georgia Code Enforcement Association up there. So.
Okay, we're going on to the rules calendar. House will come to order. House will come to order. We're on the rules calendar. The clerk will read a caption.
House Bill 351, Representative Maxwell, the 17th. A bill to be entitled Amendment Title 47, relating to revenues collected from fines and fees in probate courts, so as to change the portion of such fines paid to the judges of the probate courts retirement fund of Georgia. Rather, a certain portion of certain fines collected in certain state courts shall be paid to such retirement fund. The bill having been before the House Committee on Retirement, the committee recommends the bill do pass and be read for the third time.
The chair recognizes the chairman of the Retirement Committee, Chairman Maxwell, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a retirement bill brought on behalf of our probate judges. The bill changes the fee system. They had a tiered system in the past based on the amount of the fine. Now we have a flat $3 rate. This has been vetted through the ACCG. They have no problems. Since the creation of state courts, a number of cases, including traffic cases previously heard by the probate court, are now being heard in our state courts. The fees now that are being collected in state court go to the JRS retirement system, which left a little shortfall in the probate judges retirement system. This fee, even though it's a small amount, will help increase the funding level for our probate judges. So we're asking your favorable consideration of this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there are any questions, I will try to answer them.
You have no questions.
I'd ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 351 will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 351. The ayes are 137, the nays are 6. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions.
The first 3 resolutions are invitation resolutions. They're being read for the first time and referred to Committee on Rules. A resolution by Representative Teasley, the 38th, commending Dr. Emily Limbeck and inviting her to be recognized by the House of Representatives. Resolution by Representative Jones, 46, commending Southwest Airlines on its expansion into Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. A resolution by Representative Sheldon, 105th, commending Frank Osborne Middle School, inviting Principal John Campbell to be recognized by the House of Representatives. Following resolutions are privileged resolutions being read for the first time today for adoption. A resolution by Representative Benton on the 31st, recognizing and commending Matthew Derrimer. Resolution by Representative Holt, 112th, commending Madison Hardware and Supply. Resolution by Representative Frazier, 123rd, recognizing Deacon Frank LaFavor on his 100th birthday. A resolution by Representative Williams, 165th, recognizing and commending Francis Morgan. Resolution by Representative Morgan, 39th, recognizing January 22nd through 28th, 2012, Georgia School Choice Week at the Capitol. Resolution by Representative Byrd, 20th, recognizing February 9th, 2012 as Georgia Asian Pacific American Day at the Capitol. And a resolution by Representative Scott, 76, recognizing and commending the Concerned Black Citizens Coalition through the privilege resolutions.
Is there objection to the adoption of the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. Chair recognizes Representative Horn for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House insist on its position on Senate Bill 223 and a committee of conference be appointed.
Clerk will read a caption.
Senate Bill 223 by Senator Liggett III, a bill of entitled Title 50 relating to organization and executive branch generally, so as to establish the Georgia Government Accountability Act, to provide a title, legislative intent, create the Legislative Sunset Advisory Committee, to authorize the committee to review and evaluate state agencies' productivity, efficiency, and responsiveness, provide for automatic abolition of certain state agencies, contingent upon adoption of a resolution by the General Assembly declaring that the state laws applicable to that agency have been repealed, revised, or reassigned.
Chair recognizes Representative Horn.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. This is the Senate Bill 223 is the sunset bill, and this bill, the short of it is that this was the bill where there was going to be a legislative panel appointed to take a look at boards, agencies, commissions, and things like that, and charged with coming back to this body with recommendations on what to do with those boards, agencies, and commissions going forward. It's already been through the process. The Senate has already appointed a conference committee, but we found some last-minute language changes that we needed last year, and quite frankly, the clock ran out on us last session. So what I'd like to do is get this bill to conference so we could get those language problems corrected, and I'll bring you a nice, clean conference committee report shortly.
Got no questions. Is there objection to the motion? Chair hears none. This House has insisted on its position and agreed to appoint a conference committee. The chair appoints to the Committee of Conference on Senate Bill 223 Representatives Billy Horn, Representative Chuck Martin, and Representative Stephen Allison. What purpose does Chairman Coleman rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to request, if I could, if House Bill 1150 be moved from the Ways and Means Committee into the Education Committee. Both chairman and the sponsor of the bill agree to this change.
Clerk will read a caption.
House Resolution 1150 by Representative Coleman, 97th, A resolution proposing amendment to the Constitution so about that the sales and use tax for educational purposes shall only be distributed on the basis of full-time equivalent student counseling proceeds that are distributed between the county school district and the independent school districts located in that county. Provide for submission of this amendment, ratification or rejection.
On the motion of the gentleman that House Resolution 1150 be withdrawn from the Ways and Means Committee and recommitted to the Committee of Education, is there objection? The chair hears none. It is so ordered. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to be in joint session in about 3 minutes. We have completed the business of this House, as I knew we would, in a timely fashion. We're down to announcements. If you have an announcement and you haven't signed up, you've got about 30 seconds to get down here and sign up. Chair recognizes Chairman Rogers for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just want to remind the Higher Education Committee, we will have a joint hearing today with the Senate colleagues. It will include higher ed appropriations. Tim Connell, President of the Georgia Student Finance Commission, will give us a projection on lottery revenues and expenditures through 2016. So that is today at 3 o'clock in Appropriations Chamber 341. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Jacobs for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Jacobs Subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee will meet today at 4 p.m. in the Judiciary Committee room.
Chair recognizes Chairman Maxwell for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Retirement Committee will meet today at 2 o'clock in room 403. 2 o'clock, 403 Retirement Committee. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Knight for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Special Committee on Small Business Development and Job Creation will have its first meeting today at 1:30 CLOB 406. We will start off our initiative on regulations. Thank you.
Okay. House is going to come to order. The House will come to order. I would ask you to come out of the anterooms and the hallways and come to your seats. We're about to go into joint session here with our colleagues from across the hall to have the State of the Judiciary address. All members. Well, as often is the case, we are waiting on the state Senate. Where'd Phil go? Okay. Yeah, I don't think so. No. I'm thinking I may need to send the sergeant at arms and see if the Senate remembered what we were doing today. $5 minutes. Are they having a caucus meeting again? All right, we'll be at ease till the Senate decides to join us. All right, members of the House, please take your seats. Come out of the ante rooms and take your seats and come to order. Mr. Doorkeeper.
Mr. Speaker, the President Pro Tem, and the members of the Senate await entrance to the House chamber.
Mr. Doorkeeper, please allow the President Pro Tem, and the members of the Senate to enter the House chamber, and with a messenger, please escort them to their designated seats.
Okay, good to see you. Fine, thank you. Thank you. Hey.
Welcome to the People's House. Welcome to the
Just hold it, and I'm sure you will. Hold it one day. Right there. My classmate. He's going to introduce you. He wants to make sure he's been out. Stein.
To the members of this joint session of the Georgia General Assembly, it is my great honor to introduce our presiding officer today, my friend, the distinguished Lieutenant Governor of the state of Georgia, Casey Cagle.
Thank you. All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Members of the General Assembly, the joint session will come to order. All members will take their seats. Clerk of House will read a resolution.
House Resolution 1098 by Representative Ralston VII, a resolution calling a joint session of the House of Representatives and the Senate for the purpose of hearing a message from the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Georgia. Be resolved by the General Assembly of Georgia, the Honorable Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is hereby invited to address the joint session of the House of Representatives and the Senate at 11 o'clock a.m. Wednesday, January 25th, 2012, in the Hall of the House of Representatives. Be it further resolved that each of the Justice of the Supreme Court, each judge of the Court of Appeals is hereby invited to the Hall of the House of Representatives for the purpose of hearing the address from the Chief Justice.
Mr. Sergeant at Arms.
Mr. President, the Honorable Carol Hunstein, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Georgia, Justices of the Supreme Court, Judges of the Court of Appeals, and distinguished guests, wait for admittance into this historic chamber.
Thank you, Mr. Sergeant at Arms. Please escort the Honorable Carol Hunstein, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and distinguished guests to be admitted to the chamber at this time. It is now my honor to share this podium with a person who's been a very close friend of mine for over 18 years. He not only is my friend, but he's my speaker. Please join me from Blue Ridge, Georgia, David Ralston, Speaker of the House. I'm sorry, I didn't find the button to turn the applause off, Mr. Speaker. I thought I'd make you feel good. It is with great honor for me to introduce to you Carol Hunstein, our Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. As many of you know, the Chief Justice has served since 1992. She has 3 wonderful children, and she served with great distinction. Please join me in welcoming our Chief Justice, Carol Hunstein. Thank you. Very good. Come right on in.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Lieutenant Governor Cagle, Speaker Ralston, President Pro Tem Williams, Speaker Pro Tem Jones, friends in the legislative and executive branches, my fellow judges, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity once again to present to this distinguished body the annual State of the Judiciary Address. This yearly tradition underscores our commitment to work together as co-equal branches of government in our common mission of serving the citizens of this great state. Together, we can achieve far more than we can alone. I'm privileged to report to you today our accomplishments of the last year, the challenges we face, and our plans for the future. I am honored that joining me are my friends and colleagues on the Supreme Court of Georgia, presiding Justice George Carley, Justices Robert Benham, Hugh Thompson, Harris Hines, Harold Melton, and David Namias. And I want to pay special tribute today to my dear friend George Carley, now the presiding justice, but soon to be Chief Justice, before he retires later this year after 32 distinguished years on the bench. We in the and with him is his long-suffering wife, Sandy Carley, who's in the audience. We in the judiciary are going to miss this brilliant jurist and wonderful colleague. Also here are my friends and colleagues on the Georgia Court of Appeals, including Chief Judge John Ellington, former Chief Judge Charles Michael, and the newly appointed Judge Michael Boggs. And we are honored to have in the gallery many judges from around the state. On behalf of all these judges and the judiciary, I want to sincerely thank you for the work that you do. We are deeply appreciative to you in the legislature and to Governor Deal for your interest in and ongoing support of the Judicial Branch. Above the bench in the Supreme Court of Georgia is a Latin phrase etched in stone. It says, Fiat Justitia Ruat Caelum. It means, let justice be done though the heavens may fall. This pronouncement is the essence of an independent judiciary. It stands for the notion that above all else, the rule of law is the foundation of our nation, and regardless of anything else, we must protect it. That it's our duty as judges. It is our job to uphold the law regardless of the outcome, regardless of the public opinion,
regardless of political favor. Our forefathers understood this principle through their embodiment in the United States Constitution of the three branches of government and the separation of their powers. In order to form a more perfect union, our United States and state constitutions creatively check each branch's authority and balance its limitations by guaranteeing its independence while at the same time ensuring the interdependence of all three branches. You write the laws, the governor executes them, we interpret them. Simple, but brilliant. In Georgia, at this time in our history, all three branches of government share a symbiotic relationship. Together as a whole, we can be stronger than our individual parts. Never has this relationship come to greater fruition than through our work this past year on criminal justice reform. Nearly a year ago, I joined Governor Deal, Speaker Ralston, Lieutenant Governor Cagle, Representative Jay Neal, and others in an unprecedented news conference where all three branches of government stood as one in our pledge to reform Georgia's criminal justice system. Through legislation introduced by Representative Neal, the Special Counsel on Criminal Justice Reform embarked upon a detailed analysis of Georgia's sentencing and corrections system. Our primary goal was and remains the public safety of our citizens. We began this process united in our conviction that our state can no longer afford to spend more than $1 billion a year to maintain the nation's fourth highest incarceration rate and the nation's #1 highest rate of people under some kind of correctional restraint. We began united in our belief that warehousing nonviolent offenders who are addicted to drugs or are mentally ill does nothing to improve the public safety. Indeed, in the long run, it threatens it. And we began united in our commitment to come up with alternatives to incarceration for nonviolent offenders that protect the public safety by addressing the roots of crime and reducing recidivism. Georgia has a rich history of being tough on crime. This state did not just settle for 3 strikes, you're out. In 1994, we became the first in the country to pass a 2 strikes, you're out law. As a government, we must continue in our zeal to protect our citizens from violent and repeat offenders. Murderers, rapists, armed robbers, and other violent felons deserve stiff prison sentences. No one suggests otherwise. But if we truly want to be tough on crime, we must figure out how to reduce it. We now know that being tough on crime is not enough. We must also be smart about crime and criminal justice policy. If we simply throw low-risk offenders into prison rather than holding them accountable for their wrongdoings while addressing the source of their criminal behavior, they merely become hardened criminals who are more likely to reoffend when they're released. The bottom line is that all those mandatory minimum sentences and get-tough prison measures did little to reduce our 3-year reconviction rate, which has held steady for the past decade at nearly 30%. 2 months ago, the Special Counsel published a report of its findings. The Council found that nonviolent drug and property offenders represent 60% of all admissions to Georgia's prisons. Between 1990 and 2010, their average time in prison has tripled. In 2010, we who are judges sent thousands of low-risk drug and property offenders to prison, people who had never before been locked up. For those low-risk offenders, the taxpayer spent $49 a day to house them in prison, versus $16 a day for community treatment at a day reporting center, or $1.50 a day for probation supervision. The Special Counsel found that at least 1 in 4 who entered Georgia's prisons had mental health problems. In a special newspaper series this past fall, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution reported that Georgia's jails have become the new asylums, with more mentally ill people locked behind bars than all those being treated in state psychiatric hospitals combined. As I speak to you today, up to a quarter of the thousands sitting in our county jails are mentally ill. That's costing our taxpayers millions of dollars, from which they will get little return on their investment. The special counsel has looked to other states and their successes, notably Texas and South Carolina, in recommending a series of policy options that are now before you for your consideration. Texas, for instance, invested a sizable amount in diversion and treatment centers, even though it faced a shortfall in prison beds. As a result, that state estimates it has avoided the need for $2 billion in new prison construction. And for the first time in its history, Texas is actually closing a prison. But most significantly, in 2010, Texas posted its lowest crime rate since 1973. Following the examples of Texas and other states, Georgia's special counsel recommends giving judges more sentencing options by creating a statewide system of accountability courts, which include drug courts, mental health courts, and veterans courts. Our veterans have been overseas sacrificing their lives and protecting our country. Many come back changed by traumatic brain injury, chemical dependency, and mental health conditions that can lead to erratic behavior and possible involvement in the criminal justice system. These accountability courts have a proven track record of holding offenders accountable while reducing their likelihood of reoffending. A national report issued just last month by the U.S. Government Accountability Office found that rearrest rates for drug court graduates were 26% lower than the rate of recidivism among comparison groups. The goal is to turn lawbreakers from tax burdens into taxpayers, and these courts have already proven their effectiveness in doing that. Yes, they may be compartmentalized, but they are more efficient. Not only are they specialized, but they free up judges whose dockets have been clogged with drug crimes to deal with other important criminal and civil cases, including the very important business disputes. The special counsel recommends other crime-fighting measures for your consideration. One involves offenders who are about to max out of prison, many of whom have spent the majority of their lives locked behind bars. Rather than push them out the prison gate with a bus ticket, a travel kit, and $25 in cash, the council recommends that 6 months before their discharge date, they be released to parole supervision to oversee their transition back into society. Minor traffic offenses also clog our Georgia courts. Many of our citizens don't realize that Georgia criminalizes minor traffic offenses, entitling the offender to a trial by jury if requested. Most states treat these minor traffic offenses as violations, penalized by a fine. The council recommends in its report creating a new class of violations for less serious traffic offenses so they are no longer treated as misdemeanor crimes. This recommendation specifically excludes DUIs and other serious traffic offenses. There are many more recommendations, and I urge you to read the entire report. I join Governor Deal in saying that this is an important first step, but this is like steering a ship. Changing our course will take time, and it will not come without courage and controversy. As Woodrow Wilson said, if you want to make enemies, try to change a thing. But as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, a genuine leader is not a searcher for consensus, but a molder of consensus. There are many consensus builders in this room, and I'm confident in your ability to bring about significant reforms. Governor Deal urged the special counsel to limit its focus to changes that affect the adult prison population. I agree that we must take this one step at a time, but today I would like to plant a seed for your future consideration. In the last year, I've heard from many of our state's juvenile court judges who have the best interests of our young people and their families at heart. With state cuts in mental health services, child welfare services, and alternatives for children who do not need to be behind bars, juvenile judges are too often faced with sending young people to locked facilities to get some kind of treatment or sending them home where they get no treatment at all. So today, I offer you a postscript. The same reforms we are recommending to you for adults must begin with our children. Perhaps you have heard the parable about the group of people who were standing at a riverbank when they watched an infant floating by and drowning in the river. One person promptly dove in and rescued the child, but then another baby came floating by, and then another and another. Frantic, everyone jumped in to try and save the babies, but they noticed one people in their group was walking away. Accusingly, they shouted, "Where are you going?" And he answered, "I'm going upstream to stop whoever is throwing babies in the river." In Georgia, we are throwing children into youth prisons. They are technically known as youth development campuses, but many YDCs look, feel, and sound just like adult prisons. Some of our children are serious, violent, repeat offenders, and we must protect our citizens from them. But many are behind bars because juvenile judges have nowhere else to send them, because no one intervened before it was too late. According to the Georgia Department of Juvenile Justice, during the last 3 years, nearly 2/3 of the more than 10,000 youths locked behind bars have some kind of substance abuse problem. More than 1/3 have been diagnosed with mental health conditions. As with adults, we have learned that our get tough tactics have failed to scare juvenile offenders straight. A recent study by the Annie E. Casey Foundation found evidence that our reliance on incarceration for young people provides no benefit to public safety, does not reduce their future offending, wastes taxpayer dollars, and perhaps worst of all, exposes children to high levels of violence and abuse. In other words, our youth prisons are a pipeline to adult prison. Consider this, within 3 years of juveniles released from youth prison, up to 72% are convicted of a new offense, depending on the state that they live in. Children who drop out of school, get involved in drugs, develop mental health problems, are unruly, disrespectful, and out of control without ever getting any kind of intervention are strong candidates for becoming adult criminals. We must face the reality that many of these children, Georgia's youth prisons, are mere incubators for adult crime. Tasha Hamilton was well on her way down that path to adult prison. Tasha was 8 years old when her mother abandoned the family, leaving her behind with her baby sisters. Although their father worked, they had little money, and at times they slept in a car. Tasha grew up angry and defiant. By 11 years old, she was smoking marijuana. By 12, she was hanging out with an older crowd and drinking. By 13, she was hooked on methamphetamine. Tasha bounced in and out of Georgia's YDCs and boot camps, spending 90 days here, another few months there, often for minor infractions. By the time she was 16, Tasha had been in trouble so many times that she was committed to the state, and this time they sent her away for nearly a year. Tasha describes the YDC as a miserable place, full of miserable people wanting to do harm. Tasha says youth prison doesn't bring out the good in anybody. In her own words, she says, "You take a little bit of bad away with you. You come out knowing worse people than when you went in, and you build relationships with them." But something happened to Tasha that made all the difference. She had a probation officer, Jennifer King, who genuinely cared and refused to give up on her. Jennifer worked in the Douglas County Juvenile Court under Jenny McDade, Director of Juvenile Programs. Together, they made sure Tasha got the help she needed. Tasha got her GED, she got drug treatment, and ultimately, she got a job. Without Jennifer, she says, it would have been easy for her to graduate into adult prison. She sadly wonders how many are in adult prison today who never had a Jennifer in their lives, someone who said to them when they were teenagers, "You can do it," when they had no hope that they could. With the help of the Douglas County Juvenile Court System under the able leadership of Judge Peggy Walker, Tasha was accepted into West Central Technical College. Today, she works full-time in insurance, taking care of her 2 daughters as a taxpayer, not a tax burden. Today, Tasha has that hope in her life she once lacked, and today, it's still important to Tasha that she continues to make her probation officer proud. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce you to Tasha Hamilton, Probation Officer Jennifer King, Jenny McDade, and Judge Peggy Walker. Together, we can move this ship in a new direction. You have a challenge ahead, and I recognize you have difficult choices to make. I do not envy you. This year, as in the previous few years, you face what we hope is the end of a recession that has cost citizens their jobs, their homes, and their hope in the American dream. This year, as always, you are charged with parsing out limited state funds to many worthy causes. The Judicial Branch provides a core government function by protecting the public safety. We in the judiciary are grateful to you for understanding that we are bound by the Constitution of our state and nation to uphold the rule of law and mete out justice in a fair and impartial way to all who come before us. As I have said before, our courts are the emergency rooms of society.